what's up, everyone? You know what to do. Hit like and subscribe because this is your favorite podcast on the internet, and we really appreciate it. We have a lot to talk about today, so make that happen. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies and Big Tones, Tony Miola. And we're getting after it today because we have a potential new name in the mix for the U.S. men's national team, Pellegrino Matarazzo. And we're going to discuss him. We're going to get Charlie's thoughts on the Olympic performance by our U.S. U23s and a couple of overage players, and some words by Walker Zimmerman. We're going to break it all down for you and have a lot of fun. Like always, but we have the Call What You Want word of the day. You guys
Let's go.
Bringing it back. It's been a while. All right. Tones, I don't know. I haven't heard from Tony yet. You good, Tones?
I'm good, man. I'm waiting for I leaned forward. I was waiting for the word of the day, and then you just kind of froze on me.
All right, here we go. Now, compared with other sports, soccer is or football or football, whatever you want to call it what you want. Soccer is light on protective gear, but there is one essential piece of equipment every player needs to step on the field. That is shin guards. Okay, so in this European country, shin guards are called bean skinna. So here are your clues. Last week, this country's most successful club eliminated a former pub team from Gibraltar called FC Bruno's Magpies from the Europa Conference League qualifiers. That's clue number one. Okay. Everybody playing at home on the YouTubes, write this down. Shout out your answer in the car if you're listening in the car. Second clue. This nation's starting goalkeeper made his Scottish Premiership debut over the weekend, keeping a shutout in their 4-0 win over Kilmarnock. Language, team, country. You don't
Say
need
the word.
Team.
Is it Scandinavian?
Bean skinna.
That's where I was going to go. Norway.
Scandinavian. That's where I feel like it's Scandinavian. Bean skinner.
Bean skinna. That's what you wear.
Dutch? Could that be
Bean
Dutch?
skinner. You said
Bean skinner.
bean skinner.
Bean skinner.
Bean skinner. Bean skinner. I'm
said,
really
could that be
feeling
I thought that
Scandinavian.
second clue was going to seal it for you very quickly.
First Kilmarnock. Like,
Kilmarnock in Scotland. No, I mean,
what is that going to?
Have you ever seen a game?
Who is that?
This
Sorry, I didn't
nation's
follow Kilmarnock
starting
this week.
goalkeeper made his Scottish Premiership debut over the weekend, keeping a clean sheet in Celtic's 4-0 win. I didn't say Celtic the first time. I said Celtic this time. You don't remember who just signed for Celtic in between the sticks?
No,
No,
I don't.
Wow. I thought you guys would be all over that. Okay.
Bean skinner.
Wow, I thought this would be talking here. We need some guesses.
Dutch.
So we're saying it's not
Ireland.
I'm gonna go.
Ireland's his guess.
Huh?
I think it's
Not
Scandinavian. Bean skinner.
Okay, even if you said Scandinavian, there's a couple countries in Scandinavia.
Am I right? Am I close?
You
Normally
are close.
you're pretty good with that.
You're close.
Okay. Bean skinner. I'll go Norwegian.
Wrong. You're back in, Tones. You're back in.
My two.
You got like two other. You got two options if I say Scandinavia.
Who'd you say, Charlie?
He
I said Finland.
Norway. No, he said Norway. It's not Finland either. That's the second guess. Now you got
no, it isn't.
Tick tock.
How about
Iceland. I said
no, it's not Iceland.
It's Denmark. God,
it's Denmark. It's Denmark. The answer is Danish, and the goalkeeper is Kasper Schmeichel, and the most successful club that just eliminated a former pub team from Gibraltar called FC Bruno's Magpies is FC Copenhagen.
Kasper Schmeichel went there. Wow,
Bean skinner.
That's right.
I thought you'd have that. Kasper Schmeichel.
Yeah.
He plays Joe Hart for the Hoops.
The season hasn't started yet.
I
hate the transfer window. Like there's
I'm with Tony on this
moves.
one. I'm with Tony on this one.
So that clue sucked, but anyway.
Okay. All right. Stop taking shots at
Hey,
my
I
clues.
played in Denmark. I've never heard that word used in my life.
What would they say? They would say shinnies, guards, nothing.
Bean skinner.
Not bean skinner. I can tell you that. Never heard bean skinner in my life.
All right, we're burying the lead. Everybody wants to talk about this new name that's emerging for the U.S. men's national team job, Pellegrino Matarazzo. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a tail of the tape. And this is according to Kicker and Bild, by the way, 2 publications in Germany, saying that he got offered the job at the U.S. men's national team. But here's the tail of the tape for everybody that doesn't know anything about Pellegrino Matarazzo. 46 years old, born in New Jersey. Were you born in New Jersey, Tones?
Come on, Jimmy. These are dumb questions.
New Jersey just produces. He attended Columbia University, has a degree in applied mathematics. I was a math major, so I got plenty of time for this guy. After graduating in 1999, he decided he wanted to go to Europe to try and play. He had trials in Italy, where his family's from, but settled in Germany. He made a go of it there for 10 years, but the highest level that he made was being a reserve or the reserve team at Nuremberg, which is where he got his start as a coach as well. He stopped playing full-time in 2011, focusing on coaching. He ended up being the roommate of Julian Nagelsmann, the head coach of the German national team right now, during his coaching courses. He worked with Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim, started in 2017, first in the academy, then becoming his assistant. Then he stuck around as an assistant when Nagelsmann left for RB Leipzig. He was then hired by Stuttgart in the middle of the season in 2019-2020, so right before COVID, and led them to the promotion from the second division to the Bundesliga. They then finished in 9th in the Bundesliga the following season, so fair play to him on that. The year after that, they barely survived relegation, finishing in 15th, and 2 months into the next season, while sitting in 16th, he got the sack. However, within a few months, he booked his return to Hoffenheim, taking over again in the middle of the season, getting them to finish safely in 12th. Yes? But this is, wait, hold on. I'm almost done. Almost done. Then last season, they finished in 7th and booked a spot in the Europa League, the first time back in Europe.
Oh, yes.
In 6 years. But
can I
go ahead? No, I just want to give them the tail of the tape. That's where it ends. That's where it ends. Go ahead.
I was going to say, am I missing something or did I not hear it? I didn't hear it winning anything or trophies or international experience.
Well, he won promotion.
Am I wrong?
And he won the hearts of fans.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because
look at our other options.
We heard serial winner before, right? From
yes, we did.
In terms of Matt Crocker, what he's looking for, a serial winner. Now, don't get me wrong. Matarazzo is a upgrade from the names that we have been hearing as of late. If you're talking about any managers within the United States, sure, he is managing in a top 5 league currently and doing relatively well.
The only American in a top 5 European league.
Manager. Sure, great.
I'm just saying, maybe he's our best American option.
But not a winner, certainly not a serial winner, and no international experience. So, given that, you aren't going to get me motivated or hyped about hearing this name. Because
what about Scaloni though?
Should he be in the mix? Sure, okay. But did Scaloni play internationally?
He did.
Okay. Did Matarazzo play internationally?
He did not.
Okay, he did not. So he doesn't even have that on his CV as a player.
I get it.
I'm just saying, in terms of experiences. So, right, you're willing to take a bet on a Tony Meola, on a no. This is just hypothetical, right?
Tony's taking a spray right now.
No, a Tony Meola, a Xabi Alonso, a Scaloni, people who have at least with very limited managerial experience, at the very least have done it as a player, so they know what it's like having been in a locker room, having been around coaches that are either A, successful, or B, not successful. And so, and the player most likely has had success, so they know at least what it means to be in a locker room and have success as a player and the different dynamics that go into it. What I'm saying is you have a coach now who doesn't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, in terms of, let's say, a Greg Berhalter who's managing in Columbus in Major League Soccer and hasn't won anything, to a manager in the Bundesliga who's guiding them to European places, then yeah, that's an upgrade, right? Jesse Marsch, who failed at a big club like RB Leipzig, where Matarazzo is succeeding at a club like Hoffenheim, that's success. Yeah, we're talking about, comparatively to that. But again, what I'm saying is, aren't we trying to go further than that?
Yes.
Aren't we trying to get
I think we're trying to get a bigger name than that.
Bigger than that, for sure. Bigger name, but also bigger in terms of their CV, their resume. So resume and the ability to say, oh, we got somebody who's got, who's going to be an attractive name, and they have the resume. That's all I'm saying. There's no disrespect towards Pellegrino Matarazzo and what he's done and what he's accomplished and how hard he's worked and where he started. What I'm saying is we're talking about the national team. Aren't we trying to go in a little bit further than that, Tony? Am I wrong?
Yeah. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Look, I think serial winner is like a weird term, right? Because that means like Jose Mourinho is a serial winner. The guy wins everywhere he goes, right? And Antonio Conte is a winner. He goes everywhere and he wins and then he leaves. And has he done well? There's no doubt about it. Does he know how to navigate a dressing room? Clearly he does, right? Because he's taken some teams that we don't think are going to be anywhere near the top of the table. It was one promotion, right? And we know how important that is. But the last thing you said, the last point you made, Charlie, is the one that's sticking with me, because would I be okay with Matarazzo? I would support him like anybody else.
Because he's from New Jersey, of course.
Well, I was getting to that. Yeah, of course, that's goes right at the top of the list. But my point is, we started this conversation talking about Klopp, Pochettino, Mourinho, like these guys that we were looking for, and now we're talking about Pellegrino Matarazzo, and that's fine. But my fear is, did we exhaust all of those? And people said no about our national team. I'm more fearful about the state of our national team and what people think about it, rather than I am about that it's Pellegrino Matarazzo or some other guys on this list. Now, with Matarazzo, he's been on the list really from the start. We've heard his name always thrown around, but was always on the outside. And I wonder if we're kind of settling for a criteria that says, okay, at least we got somebody who understands the American culture, who understands the American player. Will he get I've heard this whole conversation about we need a guy that's going to demand respect. I was one that said it. I still think the guy who walks in that dressing room next is going to get respect from all of the players, because they all understand right now the job's not theirs. I saw a list today of guys that are moving, including Weston McKennie and Gio Reyna, and guys that don't have clubs. So there will be nobody that has a secure job with whoever the next manager is. I'm convinced of that. But it's not the one that I'll pick up the paper tomorrow and go, whoa, I can't believe they got him. Like,
exactly.
That's
my point,
not the
Tony.
guy. Yeah. Well, do I think he can do a good job? I'm sure he can.
Sure.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, the guy's been managing a while. It's just I guess the big point is the goalposts have moved from what we thought in the beginning this would be.
Yeah. And I could tell you right now, Jimmy and Tony, there's people in the comments that are trying their hardest. There's not a welcome back, Charlie. Oh, let's have them talk. And they're trying to trigger me right off the bat. I see a lot of comments in here that are trying to trigger me. And boy, you're getting my blood boiling.
Well, to your point, and I
got to get my glasses on for these comments.
Oh yeah, read these comments.
Check them out. Sorry,
they're trying to set me off.
Get Charlie push him over the edge here.
People are talking about Rooney. I'm like, in what world did I mention Wayne Rooney? And what example is Wayne Rooney? Just because he was a good player? Come on, guys. I'm not even going to get into it.
Don't touch Wayne Rooney of all names that you can throw out there.
Geez.
I think what's interesting is, and to kind of extrapolate on your point, Tones, is that when you have the big names and you realize that Jurgen Klopp obviously turned us down, and we're throwing those names out there, those feel pie in the sky. Those feel dreamlands. Mm-hmm. And right after Greg gets sacked, you want to explore those. You want to really entertain it. Like, how awesome would it be to have Jurgen Klopp as our manager? He ticks every box, and we talked about it, and you sit with it, and you're like, oh my God, that would really be what we need. And then reality sits in. And now this is where we're in reality phase, which is Pellegrino Matarazzo might be our best viable option because he ticks enough boxes. We're not going to find, I promise you, everybody, we're not going to find anybody that ticks every single box. Even if Thierry Henry wins the gold medal with France and he's the big name and all that stuff, he still doesn't tick every single box. He's not, outside of winning that gold medal with arguably the most stacked team at the tournament, which you still have to manage. You still have to go out there and get results. So fair play to him. and I would welcome him to the team if he wanted it and had the right energy for it. Then it's still, is he serial winner? He's not, right? So if we look at everybody, there's always going to be something that they're going to lack, especially at this point. Jurgen Klopp, for me, was the only one that could tick every single box, including the biggest name that we could possibly get. And that's not in the realm of possibility. And to your point, Tones, there is a stigma attached around our team. And I think when I look at the U.S. women's national team, they were on the down and outs after the Women's World Cup. Emma Hayes came in, but Emma Hayes was in like that cycle of her personal life where she wanted to come to the States. She had already exhausted and achieved everything she was going to do at the club level, and the timing was absolutely perfect. And I'm loving how Emma Hayes is running the U.S. women's national team right now, in the Olympics in particular, and just how she's managing a lot of situations, though she could sub a little bit earlier. Different conversation. But I would say that there's not going to be one candidate out there that's going to tick every box. What I do like about this, let's pivot it back to Matarazzo, and Charlie, I'll come to you on this. He plays a 3-5-2. That's how he likes to play. And he has a high pressing system in place.
Sign him up. Sign him up.
Well, I just think that's something we've been clamoring for. Do we have 3 center backs? I guess John Anthony Brooks currently plays for his team at Hoffenheim. Maybe he comes back into the fold. That would be an interesting development, and he could sit in that 3. Tim Ream looks like he's coming back to Charlotte to MLS from Fulham. That's being announced here shortly, apparently. Is he going to still be in the mix? Are we going to go younger in that particular position? Lots of questions, right? But then we finally start to play a system that might be best suited for our team. And I wonder, though, if as a national team coach, and then Charlie, I'll throw the mic over to you, will he have enough time? We have 11 windows, including a Gold Cup, before the 2026 World Cup kicks off. Is that enough time for him to implement the sophistication of his style? Potentially, but I just wonder, without that day-to-day grind of the club scene, which is all he knows, does he think he'll have enough time to make that happen? And I guess that'll be yet to be determined. What do you say?
Any manager in the game, if they're taking this job in all seriousness, that's enough time to figure out what system you want to play, what type of players you want to bring in, which type of players you want to keep within the squad right now, and who you want to move on from. That's plenty of time. So time is not an issue right now, which is another big thing of mine, is don't rush to make this decision.
That too. I agree with that.
Wait to get the right guy. There's no need to rush back for a friendly against Panama and Canada and New Zealand. Like, no, thank you. I think you do have to have a higher. You do have to absolutely, without a doubt, have to have a man in charge, a person in charge by January. That is for sure. But what I'm saying is, if we are going to wait, they've made this decision to move on from Greg, then wait to make the absolute best possible hire until that person is there. Because if Pellegrino Matarazzo is willing to walk away now from Hoffenheim for this job, if that's that close and he's that interested, then he'll walk away in January. So if he's going to walk away now, he'll walk away in January. That's not going to change. That gives you a little bit more time. If I see one more Renard comment, I think that he's proven he's not the guy. He's not it.
After losing to Brazil with the women's
I just don't want to hear another Renard one.
Apparently he's going to go to Ghana. He's going to go to Ghana. That's the word on the street.
Matarazzo is definitely someone that I'm intrigued about. That's it. I'm not hyped.
I'd put him in the conversation for sure as a realistic option for our team. And I think also he clearly works well with underdogs, right? And I think there's something in that where, can you get more out of your team? Can you help them overachieve? And yes, there are blips where he was fighting relegation with Stuttgart and struggled a little bit at times with Hoffenheim. But for them to get into the Europa League this past season and punch above their weight, I think that's a type of coach that maybe we should be looking at. And I think for me, that's a feather in his cap, that he's been able to get a lot out of certain groups of players. And I think he would demand that respect. And Tones, I do want to hear from you, but we got our first break and call it what you want.
Because I'm about to be triggered. Thank God that we're taking this break.
They're taking this,
I'm about to erupt. These comments, the people in these comments, they came in with an agenda today to set me off, and I'm feeling it. I'm up for the challenge, guys. So keep it coming with that with that crazy talk in the comments.
All right. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Call It What You Want. Charlie Davies about to be set off. He's like a stick of dynamite over there that's just been lit. The fuse has been lit. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Miola as well. And before we get Charlie going, Tones, I do want to hear from you. Last word on Pellegrino Matarazzo. You'd be okay if he got hired. You wouldn't be excited, but you'd be like, all right, let's see what this guy can do. Is that where you're
Jimmy,
netting out?
I can't change my stance on managers that I've had for 15 years now. I always judge them at the end, right? You don't know. There's people in the comments that probably don't like him or wouldn't like another guy, but if you were sat in that interview process, you might come out of there going, hey, that's the right guy for the job. Again, my concern might be a little bit bigger, but that might just be where we are as a national team. And we're not getting the level of guy that maybe we thought we were going to get at the beginning, that pie in the sky type of manager. But that doesn't mean he can't be successful. He might not check off any boxes in the end, right? And how many times have we seen this now? I mean, we're living in a day and age where we're seeing success from these types of managers. So maybe he'll be the guy. Who knows? You never know until they get in the job. But again, keep in mind, he did refute today in an article that he had made any approach to the club that he was leaving the club or that he wanted to leave the club. Could be posturing, but he did come out and say that. So I think it's important to let the listeners know that as well.
I think that what's interesting about Matarazzo is that the Bundesliga starts August 22nd, 23rd weekend. And if you're him, I don't know. I'm leaving in January would be interesting, Chuck, because he'd already invested, the first half of the season.
So why would you leave now, weeks before?
I get it. It's
you want a new contract, right? He's
got one more year left on the deal.
So it makes sense. We've gone through this path before with other coaches that are currently in jobs. It's okay, guys. I'm gonna go. I'm wanted. Do you really want me or not?
Right. Like, yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. Okay, so Chuck, let's pivot because we didn't have your presence, your valued presence during our recap of the U.S. getting knocked out by Morocco in the Olympics, and we just want to get your thoughts on it overall. And do you deem the Olympics a success or failure from a U.S. men's national team perspective?
So it's a failure. It's exactly it went down exactly how I thought it would go down, given the players that were selected on the roster. There was no variety in player profiles and types, and we played in that Morocco game. Okay, we beat New Zealand. New Zealand was poor, and Guinea was poor because they weren't organized. Okay, the France game, first half, pretty good just because we disrupted them and we were pretty good with our lines and organization. But in the second half, we fell apart. So now I'm going to grade it.
There was a moment where it could have been 1-1.
Right. We had the two chances or so where you need to convert if you are really going to be a contender and make some noise in the Olympics. Okay, didn't do that. Now I want to grade. Okay,
hold on. Yeah. So based on how we performed against Morocco, just collectively we looked tired. We didn't look sharp throughout the team. It wasn't isolated to overage players or whatever it was.
Tactics, Jimmy.
I get that. Okay,
tired legs.
Okay, that's fine. But I don't think if we would have added Diego Luna, who I think we should have added, I'm not saying we shouldn't have. I just don't know if we would have had different players, if that would have made that much of a difference.
Because the coaching was poor.
We got beat by
poor.
Should have beat us, and we beat the teams that we should beat.
Which part?
That's the
part
reality.
didn't you like in that one?
This is what I didn't like about the game against Morocco. So Gianluca Busio goes out, and obviously Jack McGlynn is not the same type of player as Gianluca Busio. Can't cover as much ground, doesn't move on the ball, whatever. Okay, so you look at the midfield, the spacing between the midfield and the forwards and the back line. prevented them from ever having possession and controlling the tempo of that game. They were very isolated. 1. 2, did you see any players from the U.S. trying things? Did you see any flair? Did you see any creativity? Because I sure as hell didn't, which also goes back to what type of players are on this roster. Where your number 10, Georgi Mihailovic, your overage player, first substituted, gave you nothing.
I agree.
Those players that
I agree with you 100%.
Have come in and out and no consistency and not taking the bull by the horns per se and being the guy to give some instruction on the pitch. 0. You got nothing from him. Your 2 center backs are overage. So okay, you're relying on them to at least hold the back line together and keep the line either low or high or whatever the style the coach wants to play. But you had 0 in terms of giving Morocco a different look. We had no pace. We weren't threatening at all. It was, you got the ball into a wide channel and then that guy is on an island versus 2 Moroccan players. Good luck. See you later. They got the ball and they came right back down. They controlled the game. And for me, I knew you knew that was going to happen. It was so predictable. And that's what pisses me off the most when I watch that game. And I don't know, I didn't get to see the show if you guys thought it was a success or it was a failure given the amount of players that said, oh, I can't go, or the amount of clubs that said, nope, they're not going. But realistically, we beat who we were supposed to beat, and it was embarrassing against Morocco because that was a chance to make something, because Morocco is beatable if you have the right plan, if you have the right tactical game plan, if you have the right players, and it's a failure. So what do you want me to say?
No. We don't disagree with you that it's a failure. We all said that it was a failure. That game in particular was a failure. There were, as you mentioned, a lot of boxes that weren't ticked. Tactics weren't right. Starting 11 wasn't right. I honestly, we looked tired. And a big sign for me on that is, yeah, you want them to play with flair. You want a player to step up and control the game. Dude, if they don't have any gas, I don't know how that's going to happen. But that's a reality.
How is that? But how is that a reality if you won the past 2 games going into it on the trot in the fashion that you did? If anything, you have energy. You're not tired. It's not like you grinded both of those games.
But when you play against the team, you talked about, Chuck, you said that both of those teams were unorganized, New Zealand and Guinea, and you were right. Right. So now you're going to go up against a team in Morocco who are organized. And we've all been in those situations where you're like, holy shit, these guys are good. And the time and space that we had in the previous 2 games, that shit doesn't exist anymore. And so now what? How are you going to solve the problems from that point? This is a problem that pisses me off about our full team. Something's being taken away. How quickly can we identify what's available and then have success? If that means lumping the ball up over the top just so you can turn them around and press, and so we can it's a real estate game, right? So then we can take the space and reset from there. Then that's the smart play. That's solving a problem, and then we can play a little higher up the field. Anyway,
let's talk about the number 9, Duncan McGuire. That was a ghost. In terms of attacking talent,
and we didn't even have a second option.
Where the hell was that?
I think he realized that, Charlie, after the first 2 games.
Yeah.
He went with guys that were a little bit more, at least looked a little bit more mobile in the game prior to the Guinea game.
So you wasted
a
roster spot, essentially.
Yeah,
that's what you did.
Yeah, and we can argue about the roster spots for sure. No production out of there. Georgie, if you look at the numbers look good, but did he take control of the games from the number 10 position? No, not at all. I think we look, to me, and I just so I said that the competition was a failure. Jimmy let McBrizzle just kind of slide on the answer and gave both sides of the story, but I said to me it was a failure. Yeah, no, I'll play it back
trying to say it was a success because we got out of the group with
let him
New
go.
Zealand and Guinea.
He didn't say success. He gave both sides of the story, right?
Well, he wouldn't commit either to
right.
It was average.
Jimmy held my feet to the fire. Jimmy said failure or success, and I said failure. I didn't have like a middle. I didn't have a
no. There's no middle. There is no middle.
There wasn't no choice C for me. But anyway, the host does what he wants, and he frames it however he wants for one guy he likes or one guy he doesn't like, whatever it is. No, I'm joking. But in the end, yeah, look, I just think this. You guys tell me, did this look? This is where I get mind blown all the time when we talk about like every team in our system needs to look the same and blah blah blah. And I get it in theory, but did this look any different than the U.S. men's national team and the things that they try and do? To me, it looked exactly the same, right? And
copy paste.
It's like it comes. This is my personal problem with that, is that I always feel like it's too you go here because the ball's here, you go here, and then we start taking the thinking part out of the game, and that's where I struggle with this whole everybody's got to play the same, because you know what, the guys at the senior team, they may have different qualities than the guys on the U23, who might have different qualities from the guys on the U20s. And I feel when I watch the youth teams play, right, and I did it for 5.5 years as an assistant coach, I'm like, I go watch all of these, and was the best thing about Tab Ramos being part of this. His big thing was to all the coaches, we bring players here for a reason. We can't try and turn them into somebody they're not, or don't bring them, right? If we bring them here because they're a dribbler and they're a guy that takes people on, well, hell, let them dribble then, or else they're not your guy.
Don't say, hey, touch only.
Right. If you go see a guy that is a guy that's always flicking the ball, doing a rainbow, doing whatever, and you like him and you take him, well, you better let him do that when he's here. And I feel like we take all of those players, and of course I'm exaggerating a little bit just to make the point, but I feel like we take all of those players and then eventually we turn them into like the same guy, and that's where I struggle with that part of it. So that's what I saw with the Olympic team. They look exactly like the full team to me. Which at the moment is not great.
No, it's not. So let's piggyback off of that kind of same guy, because in the heat of the moment, I think while emotions were raw, Walker Zimmerman said this after the 4-0 loss to Morocco. He said, I think to some degree, we've gotten away from what it's like playing for the U.S. and feel like just because we're whoever you are, that you can just get called in. That stuff pisses me off. I think guys need to, every time they put on the jersey, I don't care how talented you are, you want to play with pride, and I think we have the characters to do it, but we don't always do it. That is a hell of a statement.
Yeah, and
that is a hell of a statement.
I think it's a little out of place. So,
well, I don't know what the question lead. I don't know what the lead in of the question
for
was.
For me, that has nothing to do with this group. That comment is aimed at the first team. That is not aimed at this Olympic
100%.
team. This
100%.
Olympic team is all guys who stood the best chance to improve their stock, to improve their game, that are not first choice, and therefore they're giving it everything they have and more. So that comment is irrelevant for this group. That's what pisses me off about that comment, because this has nothing to do with the Olympic team.
In fairness, you could say, but we don't know how the question was phrased. Like,
all right, well, I'm telling you that comment is misleading if it's if people think that it's about this group. It's not pointed
about
at the first team.
You just said where it's pointed. It's pointed at the full team. Right?
Yes, it's pointed at the full team. It's a shot at guys.
Yeah.
Who play at big clubs, right? Who play at big clubs, and he's taking a shot at them without calling them out individually. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. That's what it is. My point is, well, what about this damn team? We're talking about this team and failing and the way that they did against Morocco. And that comes down to some naive plays, right? It comes down to poor coaching and poor tactics. You're down 1-0 at half. You trot out the same damn team with the same damn lineups and the same tactics in the second half. You didn't think to change the way the team played? What are we talking about here? And we're talking about the players that were selected, and that's beside the point, because once the players are selected, you go out. It was poor all around in that game. The lack of imagination, the lack of someone saying, hey, we need more help in the midfield. Let's try and control the tempo. We're not playing with a 9. So guess what? Come back inside, Paxton. You're not playing up there. Come inside as another midfielder. Let's try and find some numerical advantages in the midfield, and then we'll try and build out. But we didn't see that. So that's what I'm pissed off about. Where is the progress, I guess, with this younger group? And I get it. We knew kind of the expectations coming in. I was, the New Zealand game and the Guinea game kind of give you false sense of hope. Hey, this group is going to be different. They're going to go in a different direction, and they're going to accomplish something that we maybe weren't hoping or didn't fancy seeing in this tournament. And then, bam, here's the moment. Do it. And here it's back to, this is exactly what we thought of before the tournament happened. This is kind of what we expected, which, it brings you back down to like that pissed off feeling and that mood, which is where I am right now.
Yeah, I can tell. So very quickly, Walker was asked what he hopes his teammates take away from this Olympic experience. So you're right. He did kind of take it above and beyond because it has a clear shot on the first team.
Of course, everyone there played with pride.
I don't think he's talking. Go ahead, Tones.
Can it be maybe a message to these young guys that, hey, don't allow what happens at the full team affect, your pathway in getting to the full team? Like,
there you go, Tony.
Yeah, can it just be a message to these young guys? With also, by the way, I still think he's also getting his message across that he wanted.
Yes.
With regards to, there's too many guys that are comfortable in that full team. But
yeah.
I don't think I mind it as much as you do. Now that I have the way that it was asked, right? The question that was asked, I think it had, to me, takes on maybe a different sort
of
a
mentor, like a mentor feel.
Yeah, that I'd like to give him the benefit
but
of the doubt.
It is taking a shot. It's taking a shot at the first.
100%.
But he's not wrong, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can tell guys are comfortable, or maybe they don't. I don't know. There's entitlement that's creeped into the team, and that's why the players needed to hear a new voice, which is why Greg Berhalter should never have been hired for the second World Cup cycle in the first place. I'm just going to bring that conversation all the way back. So here's a question for you, Chuck. Or actually, Tones, I'll go to you first on this one. Have you ever been on a team where the starting 11 was almost predetermined? And do you think that was for better or worse for the team? For me, I feel like when that happens, everybody kind of knows their role and then tries to maximize their position within that role.
Doesn't mean you have to accept it, though.
That's true. That's fair. Tones, what do you say?
The only team that I can really remember that was consistent in that lineup was that 2000 Wizards team that we won the championship in the league with. Yeah. But I don't remember Bob Gansler ever straying away from making it competition every single week.
But that's club, Tony. Talk about the national team.
Yeah, the national team. No, the national team. No, I've never had a manager. And I think about Bora. Forget it. Like, you had no idea who was playing. Like, you could have had like 5 minutes of good training, and he was like, that's my guy. During the week. Yeah, back early in the day, no, because they were Alkis Panagoulias, Lothar Osiander, Bora.
What about that 2002 team under Bruce?
No, Bruce, remember, kept everyone on his toes, made changes during the competition. And if you go back to that Mexico lineup that we beat, that 2-0 game, what was that round of, that would have been
16.
Round of 16, right? Yeah. No, he made changes in that game as well. He was big on rotation. If you remember him talking about that World Cup, it was all about he wanted the freshest players on the field as we got later into the competition. He did a really good job of managing those minutes. He yanked Goose, remember, in the competition. He yanked Jeff Agus. Bruce was never set on one team, and I just think one thing he did really well was keep everybody on their toes. Like, you thought you had a chance to play all the time. If you could go and win a spot. There was a moment in that competition where one of the assistant coaches came to my room, and I had been playing really, really well, and said, look, you if something happens to Brad, you need to be ready, because we don't know exactly right now what's going to happen, because Casey's head wasn't in the right frame of mind. I don't know if he was BSing me, but what it did do is make me go every single day, right, and just push it and push it and push it. He could have been BSing me till till the sky fell down, but it got me to work. So yeah, I don't remember a guy, but I do feel like we do all these predictions, and I've done them on our radio show for years and years. I felt like the last year and a half, I could pretty much give you the lineup based on who was called into camp. I feel that way.
Yeah.
Chuck, how about you? Under Bob, did you have any?
I mean, under Bob, right? Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan and Michael Bradley were all going to play, and Tim Howard set. You most likely could say Bocanegra and Gooch were set. Trundle wasn't set. You didn't have a left back, and then you never really knew who was going to play with Michael in the midfield. And then up top, I had to wait for my chance. That was also a rotating cast, and I think it came down to form and health and what the national team should always be about. Who's playing and who's playing well. Not only just playing, you had to be playing well. So that's the thing. We talk about guys, are they playing at their club? Then they should get, no, you got to be playing well at your club. I remember I started every game with my club in Sweden. That didn't mean jack. You got to be scoring goals, and still didn't get a call in. And then you called into the camp. You weren't playing. And then all of a sudden you wait, you're in good form, because I was so mentally ready, because I had fought my butt off to get into the starting lineup and then to be consistent every week in Europe. And then, there's no doubt the confidence is there. No matter if I'm playing or if I'm not playing, I'm going to be ready for that opportunity, because maybe I wasn't in the past. And then you finally get it and you take it, because you are so in form. You're in a rhythm that you are going to succeed on the international stage when you're playing every week and you're playing well. And so not only do we need our guys playing, they need to be playing well to earn a call up on the national team. And that's what it's always been since I've been playing. And so that's why I think a new manager with those type of, I guess the criteria to get a call up will make a massive difference to what Walker's talking about with pride, because it's so hard to get that call up that you realize, oh, damn, this is really valuable. This isn't a given. And I'm playing for my country. I'm playing for my passion. And the work ethic that it took for me to get here makes you really appreciate it that much more.
Didn't Pablo Mastroianni get left off the U.S. team for basically the rest of his career after calling out Bob about Michael being a game in, game out starter? I think there's some. I
feel like there's a number of players, Jimmy, but then you got to be real. And Michael Bradley performed.
I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying that
he should be starting every match. But in the beginning, I'm sure, because that was that point, right? Early
transition
2007, 2008 into that. Because I remember going to Copa America with Pablo, right? And he was kind of on the outskirts. And I feel like that's probably when he would be most vocal about that.
Yeah, lots to unpack there. And actually, we got to get Pablo on the show, because I want to know if his perspective would change now that he's been a coach for a number of years. All right, we're taking our next break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we'll talk a little Weston McKennie and where he's going to end up now that Juve doesn't want him. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Call It What You Want, your favorite Average to Good podcast. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola, and let's talk a little Weston McKennie, because Thiago Motta, the new manager of Juve, said that he's out. They don't want him anymore. He's not a part of his project or the future. He's not alone, though. Federico Chiesa, one of their top players when he's not injured, also told gone. Wojciech Szczesny in between the six, gone. De Siglio, Artur Melo, Filip Kostic. You have Rugani, who's been part of Juve forever, all saying they're not out of the.
You know whose name's not on there, Jimmy?
Timo Weah.
Timothy Weah.
You love to see it. He just played 85 minutes the other day in their last friendly. So that's exciting news for Tim Weah, but not so great for Weston, who's got 1 year left on his contract. So, Chuck, I'll come to you. How important is this next move for Weston, and where do you think he should go? I should mention that he had a chance to go to Aston Villa when Douglas Luiz was being bandied about to come to Juve, which he ended up doing. I guess they couldn't agree on wages for Weston. That's what I've heard. Now, Fiorentina is in the mix for Weston as well. But right now, from what I understand, it's a wage concern. He might have to take a pay cut to go to a situation that can allow him to then remake that money if he plays well.
100%.
And that I think is very hard to do when you're a player that's on a certain type of wage. But how important is this next move for him? And where do you think he should go?
Well, you played with his agent, right? Corey Gibbs.
I did.
Tony, did you play with Corey Gibbs?
No, I didn't. No,
I did.
Right, but this is one of those instances where I think, you're playing at a massive club and it's hard to take a step down because realistically, most steps are steps down from Juve, right? The glory that Juventus once had. It's really hard to move from that, and the passion and the club, the supporters, all of that. But one step back to take 2 steps forward in such a critical time for the U.S. Women's National Team in his career, going into a World Cup on home soil. This is what he needs to do, to play every week, to be trusted, to continue to build on some of the things that he does as a player. I'd like to see him, go to, let's say, a La Liga, where it's a lot more technical, where he can really develop in that part of playing quicker, getting on the ball more, because we know he's gifted in the air, set pieces, his physicality. He can get across all over the pitch, but where he needs to improve the most is making sure he has an impact every single game consistently and getting on the ball and being able to play quickly out of trouble, playing in tight spaces. That's where he can grow the most. So from that standpoint, he's just got to make the right move where he's going to be trusted to play.
And my fear, Tony, is that if he does go to a big club, that he will most likely be considered a rotation player, right? Maybe not being counted on. Whereas, to Charlie's point, you go to a one step back type of club, he could be the guy. And I want him to develop as the guy, not as someone
at least one of the guys.
Right,
doesn't have to
That's
be
fair.
the guy, but one of the guys.
But it would be nice if he could find a situation where, okay, maybe he starts as one of the guys, but then it's kind of similar to Juve last year, where he was on the outs. He thought he was going to be gone, and it didn't have his name in the locker room, which was crazy. And he ended up being one of the guys and one of their key contributors throughout the season. I just wonder where that is. Now, I saw that he's linked to Tottenham. You don't know if that's an agent thing or whatever. Tottenham do with Højbjerg on the outs or out now. They got a couple teenagers in with Archie Gray and Bergvall, who are both talented but younger, and you get a little bit more experience with Weston. If I see him go to Spurs, let's just use that as an example. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, or how true it is. But if he went there, I still see him as an every once in a while player with the potential to maybe break into the team if he plays well. But I don't know exactly what the best situation for him is, other than a club that would want to lean on him in a more important way, which is going to be a step back for him. And I don't know if he's ready to take that step back in his career at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think he needs to be one of the 11 guys every week. That's what he needs to be, right? He needs to be on the team sheet every week. One example, excuse me, so we have from the Olympics, for me, one of the best examples is Tanner Tessman. Tanner Tessman's been playing in Serie B. Like, no one would go crazy about the fact that, some guy's playing in Serie B and we're thinking about him for the national team. But if you saw Tanner Tessman a couple years ago and his play then compared to what he looks like now and how he's developed and how
night and day
seems a calmer player on the field, that doesn't come because you're sitting on the bench at Juve, right? That comes because you're playing every week in Venezia, right? And I think we minimize sometimes the fact, or I should take it the other way, we glorify the fact that we're on all of these big clubs. I mean, Matt Miazga, like, he's an example. This guy was on Chelsea, right? Chelsea, I say in air quotes, back in the day. But played one or two cup games, and that was it, and was shopped around. He didn't get better until he went on loan and was playing week in and week out, and also played for Vincent Kompany as a center back, right? Lucky enough to do that. So for me, it's more important. Charlie said it about the national team and about your club careers. You got to play every week, man. I wouldn't begrudge anybody, and I say this all the time. If you stayed at Juventus because you're going to make 10 times more than ever and you don't give a rat's ass about anything else other than making money because that's best for your family, perfect. That's great for you. I would never begrudge anybody.
Saudi Arabia is calling.
Then hell, go to Saudi Arabia. Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah, right. I wouldn't begrudge anyone for that, but that doesn't help you get better as a player, right? And I think Weston still has some things that Charlie rattled off a couple that he needs to get better at, and is for me is not a shoo-in in 2026. When I think of teams, if you're thinking about players like. I got Pulisic on my list. I might have Chris Richards on my list.
Anthony Robinson.
Anthony Robinson, yeah, no doubt. And then you give me like other shoo-ins for a team that's supposed to do well. What are we, 18, almost 20, something, 22 months, whatever it is. We're less than 2 years, right? There's not a lot of shoo-ins in that group.
No.
Yeah, it's very curious to see where Weston is going to go and if they can find a situation that's good for him financially and also developmentally. That's not a word. Developmentally. I'm still learning English over here, everybody. Okay, so let's talk to Tim Weah then very quickly, because as you mentioned, he is looking like a guy that Thiago Motta is looking to trust. And Chuck, it looks like they're playing him at the right wing spot, which is where he plays for the U.S. men's national team. Are you excited? He's a little higher up the field under Thiago Motta?
Yeah, I am. I mean, naturally, he was an attacking player that was pushed back to that right back, left back, and then he thought himself, I think, long term, this is probably the best place for me because there's a lot less pressure to find the back of the net. As a striker, as an attacking player, yeah, you're judged on how impactful you are and dangerous you are, but ultimately, what's your stats? How many goals you're scoring? How many assists you're having? And now, when he was moved back, you take that pressure off, but you can chip in every now and then with a goal and assist, and you're that much better for it. But ultimately, he is an attacking player. And if he can develop and be a little bit more efficient and, more professional and continue to push his game, yes, he's going to be in a great situation with a manager that's, trying to be a little bit more progressive. So I'm all for it. That's an incredible achievement for him as a new manager who comes in and you're judged kind of with everyone else. You got to make the team or not make the team. You're either going to be a part of the project or not. And for Thiago Motta to come in and say, actually, I want you part of the project. That speaks volumes of his work.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, let's say we hire a manager for the U.S. men's national team that does want to play three in the back. Then that right side becomes really interesting. And if we go with a two striker, or even if it's a 9 up high and then a second striker underneath, I don't know if Timo's in that spot. I could see him being more right-sided. Then it becomes this Dest versus Weah type competition amongst other options we have out there. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how that all unfolds.
Oh, by the way, forward. Jimmy, we got a great question from Brian DeMarco. Does Ricardo Pepi need a loan? He needs a loan yesterday.
He should have gone to the Olympics. Don't even get me fired up again.
Luke de Jong scored a brace in the first cup game, to open the season. Of course he needs a loan.
I still pissed at Ernie Stewart for not releasing Ricardo Pepi for the Olympics, but
yeah, so isn't everybody within
now you're trying to trigger Charlie.
Might as well have Ernie Stewart in the chat. Just trigger him. Imagine Ernie Stewart in the chat going, "We're not going to release him, guys." Trying to trigger us the whole time.
Sorry, club.
Yeah, sorry.
This is the club stance.
All right, another move that's on the works, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Tones, Tim Ream looking to be finalizing a move to Charlotte FC, coming back to MLS after leaving the New York Red Bulls a long time ago when he went to Bolton and ended up at Fulham. Had a great career so far, 36 years old. Now Charlotte are the second best defense in MLS right now, so I don't know if they need him for the defensive purposes. They're only second behind the Columbus Crew. They're currently in 6th in the Eastern Conference, so sitting nicely in a playoff spot. They just got knocked out of Leagues Cup, so there's a little bit of time to refresh and get re-energized for the stretch run of MLS. How do you think he's going to help Charlotte? And then I guess the bigger question for you is, do you think Tim Ream can hang on and be a part of the 2026 World Cup roster?
Yeah, I'll start with the last part. No, I don't think he's part of 2026. And again, just a guess, right? You don't know who's coming in, but I'm not sure that I thought Charlotte needed a number 10. I just had them in the Leagues Cup group. I just finished up their group last night, so I did a lot of studying, and everyone said they need a number 10. They need a number 10, and they bring in a center back to the team. So I'm not quite sure where he fits in, although kind of hard to turn down Tim Ream and his experience and his dressing room presence, and guy's still playing at a high level, right? So you're probably going to get 2-3 years out of him at the club, which is really good. You don't know what other moves they're going to make, but yeah, we heard he was coming. I assumed, and maybe just on my part, not smart, I assumed it would be St. Louis because that seemed to make like the most sense. And then with Tim Parker going, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be Charlotte. So good luck to Tim. I like the guy. I hope he succeeds. I hope he ends his career the way that you want most guys to end their careers, on a high. And this will be good for him to get back to the States.
It reminds me of when Eddie Pope went to Real Salt Lake back in the day, and the turf just took years off of his life. He was never the same Eddie Pope after that Real Salt Lake turf. Now, in fairness, that turf was absolutely terrible. It's like playing on hard carpet. But again, going to play on turf, I wonder how much that slows down Tim Ream in particular as well. Do you expect him to be part of the 2026 World Cup roster, Chuck?
No, I don't. 2 years out. He's been, like Tony said, fantastic, and he's a fantastic person.
Yeah, what a career.
And I think, I could see him staying involved in the game. Whether that's a sporting director going in that route versus a coach, but
call it what you want, co-host.
Yeah, call it what you want. But I really like what he's, done with his career, how he's carried himself. He's made the most of it. But 2 years is a lot to ask. And then you're on top of that, you're talking about a new manager who's going to have these new demands for his players. He's going to want a younger team, right? A team, right. Younger center backs who can, play high lines and get back. And Tim Ream in 2 years, that's, we're talking, that's father time playing a big role in that.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. And yeah, shout out to Tim Ream. He has had a renaissance this back end of his career, and it's been really impressive. And I feel like he continues to get better and better and better. He might not be as athletic as he once was. As you mentioned, father time catches up to everybody, but he's made up for that in terms of his IQ for the game is tremendous. So we'll see how this one all plays out. Let's get into final thoughts ahead of the show, or ahead of the show ending here. I'm going to start with our U20s. We qualified for the U20 World Cup, which was by the skin of our teeth. And then we ended up playing Mexico in the U20 final, the CONCACAF final yesterday. We're up 1-0. We gave up a goal in the 96th minute, and then we lose in extra time, like the 121st minute. Now the referee gave 5 extra minutes, and so it should have ended in the 95th minute, and they scored in the 96th. Am I bitter? Yeah, just a smidge. Just a little. I'm a little bitter. And now you still got to see out games no matter what the circumstances are. But a little bummed because we had some good moments in that game, and obviously anytime we play a rival, we want to stick it to them, and for us to lose in that way dramatically was it's tough to swallow. But a good experience for our guys. Ultimately, they'll become stronger for it, and hopefully our program will be as well. But excited we got into the U20 World Cup. That's my final thoughts. Tony, for you, final thoughts.
Yeah, there's something there. I don't know what it is. There's an excitement to me about like where we're going still, and maybe it's just change. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being an optimist. I don't want to think that everything's doom and gloom. Right? We're a national team who's changing a manager. This happens all the time around the world, and I'd like to think that we're going to get this thing right, and we're going to go in the right direction at all levels. By the way, congratulations to the U20 team, right? That's really important to us as well. So I don't want to fail to mention that, but I don't know that I'm as doom and gloom as most people, or it's some people, I should say. And again, that might just be the optimist in me, but you know us, man. Whatever we can do to help make it right, we do it, right? I wish we had more say in it, but we don't. We'll sit back as fans and keep our fingers crossed, man.
I love it. Glass half full over there with Big Tones. How about you, Chuck? Take us home. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, congrats to the U20s. It's an incredible experience to go to a World Cup, U20 World Cup. And, that's where you can make a big move in terms of getting your dream contract to go to your dream club, or just getting into Europe, right? That's a massive door into Europe if you perform well. Other than that, it's great to be back. Thank you to all the YouTube comments for trying to trigger me. You got me a little heated on my first show back in a while. So I appreciate you. And we got some big Olympic games today. France taking on Egypt. Could it be one more game until Thierry's looking at gold or silver? I don't know. But we also have another entertaining semifinal in Spain and Morocco, which I think that'll be fantastic. But I love you all. Keep the comments flowing. We're passionate about this U.S. program. We want to see everyone do well, right? But we also have to be right. We have to be critical. We got to be honest. But there are some positives. Right now, I think we're in a little bit of a rough spot. We got to figure out a lot of things. The only thing that's going well right now is the U.S. women's national team, and Emma Hayes is absolutely killing it. So
let's go.
I love it. I love it. Let's finish on some high energy. That U20 World Cup is happening in Chile, and I think that'll happen next summer. So that'll be very exciting for our guys. All right, thank you so much for your support, as Charlie said, and for listening. We love you guys. We have the best community for any average good podcast that's out there. And let's keep this going. We'll see you next week. Later.